Welcome to the Contrast Podcast, Gabriel Otter.
Contrast podcast.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
you need a little podcast intro. Do 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 do.
Yeah, we actually have, well, at least for the last one, we did like a cool little intro. We like cut out some interesting parts of the talk itself and like kind of trailered it in the first 30 seconds.
Nice.
But our last talk was 2 hours long. So
Was that with me?
no. I mean, our last talk was with my cousin, actually.
Okay, cool.
But no, I think our last talk, literally, like the three of us, was longer than 2 hours, right? Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was quite long, but
I lost track of time. I could probably go max an hour and a half tonight.
okay.
Just because I have some schoolwork I gotta do.
Schoolwork.
Learning boy. Learning boy.
Well, wait. What do you mean by schoolwork? You're graduated.
I'm getting my TEFL certification at the moment.
Oh, right. Yeah, because wait, so you didn't finish it either?
I didn't start it in global.
Oh, okay.
I didn't fuck with that shit.
Yeah, so Fedor, just to catch you up, that was the thing I was talking about, where I had to like get a certification to teach English.
Yeah.
It's called TEFL, and it's basically like relearning the English language all over again, learning all like the specific grammar, and
it sounds familiar though. It's like IELTS and TOEFL for us, for non-English speakers, like an exam, right?
Yeah, and, exactly. But it's about how to teach English. So I mean, Gabe, if you want, you can tell us a little bit about.
Well, TOEFL is the exam that you may have taken to prove that you're worthy or some shit. TEFL stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. So a TEFL course is specifically for English speakers, typically native English speakers, but I know some who are non-native who like want to teach. So my thinking around all this is that like I don't know what's going to happen with the job market. I don't know what's going to happen in the world. It's all very uncertain. So I'm trying to like use this time to level up a little bit, get a credential so I could hopefully go teach English either online or wherever the you know.
Yeah, interesting. So how do you like it, Gabe? How do you like teaching English? Especially as I'm curious about it, because for a non-native speaker, it's just like a mystery to me how you guys just teach it.
Teaching it.
So what is your story with it? Why English? Why teaching?
Why English? Well, the short answer is I just already speak English, so it's kind of like, might as well teach it.
Yeah.
To be honest, but like it's actually like I think going in I was like, I speak English, I can teach English, but actually like there is a lot of strategy or technique or ways of doing it very well, because I can imagine, Fedor, you've probably had like really great English teachers, probably really shitty English teachers. I don't know.
He's right there, man. Right
there. That's your is he shitty or is he great?
He's all right, could be better. No.
Have you ever taken a formal English class?
Yes, I have. I've been going to how do you guys call a tutor back in Russia for like 3 years. But when I met Tarik that day, I just realized that, God damn, I didn't know anything in English. I was numb. I was just like, yo, how do I talk to that person? How should I possess myself? And that's the question comes, man, about like what, like culture and language. There are two cannot be separated things, So could you teach, like, I don't know who you're going to teach English to, but could you teach them culture side, like some aspects of that?
That's a pretty good question. Like, I think the best way to teach English is like to mostly teach, like to use a lot of culture, or to teach using like media or you know, whatever, music or, you know, aspects of culture, and use those to like convey language. Because it's probably, like in my experience with language classes, it's much more interesting to like focus on like a cool song in Spanish, and like, you know, you like the song and it's fun, and then from there you do this top down thing where you start with the major structure that is the song that's enjoyable, you're interested, you're engaged, music is fun, and from there you break it down and you can go more into detail about the specific language, like certain vocabulary that's in the song or certain grammar or ideas or things like that. So I think like good language teaching should be very cultural as well too, because speaking as you know is like very much is culture. Like there's weird nuanced slang and like different jokes and humor or like idioms, all kinds of things like that are so, you can only get it if you're just chatting. Like if you just were talking with Tarik, like that's the only way that you're gonna learn that kind of shit. So
Yeah, you can only learn anything if you only talk with me. Like I'm the only source, you know.
Tarik is the one true source of all knowledge and power and culture.
Yeah. So my next question, kind of an additional one to that, would be, but what if some people, or rather some countries, would not want to learn about your culture? And in particular, I'm going to give you an example, like an American culture. You know, when you teach this freedom of speech, you got to convey the language and also add this feature from your culture to that process of teaching, right? But what if some people, some nations, we're not going to name the names, would not want to learn about it?
Name names. Who are we talking about here?
We're talking about this guy right there, you know?
Oh, Mr. Dragon.
The Qin
Yeah,
Dynasty.
that's
He's
right.
talking about the Qin Dynasty.
Oh, the Qing Dynasty. Those f***ers. Yeah. Last Chinese Empire, right?
That's right. But no, I'm being serious, because it's a very acute problem to me. Because if you have to limit yourself in this regard to like, yeah, what I should say, how I should do this, damn, even TOEFL, it's not gonna help me out with that. If people just gonna be, I want to learn this. No. Please, I have to do this as my father told me. So how do you deal with that stuff, man?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's a good question.
Do you think that there should be some ethics to that part, like teaching English? You gotta be like, wait a moment. If they don't want to learn about this part, I'm not gonna teach anything, because it's just, that's an essential part that they are not willing to learn. So how do you deal with that?
Do you think it's more coming from students who don't want to learn about that, or it's more like the institution that doesn't want the students to learn about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And of course, yeah, the second one at least sounds more like realistic, you know, because this institution creates the narrative. And whether or not, like, if you want or not, you just have to obey these rules, you know.
Yeah.
And the little percentage of people could actually escape that, you know, and be like, no. We are going all in. We're gonna learn stuff from Gabe, you know, and teach me wherever you like, please, you know. That would be a good approach to that. But not that many people can, and not that many nations, I guess.
I have a quick question. I want to jump in. So, Gabe, you to make it clear for everyone who's watching, Gabe, currently you're teaching Chinese students, right?
Yeah, I actually got laid off, but yeah, I was.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's all right. I got lots of jobs now.
Okay, cool. What age group were you teaching?
Like little kids, like 6 to 11, 6 to 12. Yeah.
And,
no, that was, yeah.
Did they ever ask you questions about America? Did you ever get any of those?
Yeah, sometimes. Less questions, more just like they I had one kid who was always like, okay, so the company I worked for, I won't name the company, but they basically prepare these lessons, they prepare these slides, and then you as the teacher, you essentially just go through the slide with the kid and teach it. So I didn't really have that much control over the curriculum or anything like that. And sometimes there was some weird shit on there that kind of like gave me a window into the mind of like the Chinese language institution education system, because sometimes they'd be like, they just oversimplified shit. They'd be like, in America, people live in houses. In China, people live in apartment buildings. Like that was literally a slide I had to teach. Or in America, people eat bread. In China, people eat rice. And I'm like teaching this shit and I'm like, what the f***? Like, this is so oversimplifying and so weird. Like, what the hell? But I had one student who was actually pretty cool, and he was like, but teacher, I like both. And he'd be like, but teacher, China has houses too. And I'd be like, you know what, Sam? You're right. You're fucking right. And this company is fucking you over, and it's fucking me over, man. Sorry.
It's all right, man. Air it out.
Oh.
Now's your chance.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that there's an oversimplification. I think that they're trying to teach culture in a very robotic, sort of systematic way, when really that's not how you should teach culture. How should you teach culture? I don't really know. On an online platform, I think it's pretty hard, but it just seems very limited to me. So
interesting.
So fuck 'em.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So let's kind of guide that into a bigger discussion about culture, cross-cultural exchange, right? Because I think all of us have been through that in some form. And I guess I'll start by just talking about, a place that I loved and kind of my history with that, which was Bosnia and Herzegovina, right? Me and Gabe were actually there together. And it was the first time I've been in a Slavic country. Some people might, I'm not 100% sure that Bosnia and Herzegovina is technically a Slavic country. It might be, I don't know, considered a mixture. But
Yeah.
some of the people there are Slavic. So it was just my first experience being around a large number of Slavic people. And I loved it. It was just, I like the style of the people, which is very kind of like matter of fact. This is how life is. Very like straight to the point. No like small talky, play nice politeness. It was just like, yo, what's up? Oh, from America, what's up, man? Yeah, let's go for a drink. Straight to the let's get to know each other. So I just had a great experience with that, and it led me to be more curious about Slavic people. So so that was a good experience for me. What about you guys?
I've never been to Bosnia, but Gabe, yeah.
I've been to Bosnia. I have been to Bosnia. I also liked it a lot. I went through an extremely I was going through an extremely traumatic breakup at the time, so that in some ways overshadowed it. It was pretty intense, actually. Sorry, this is more my personal experience as opposed to like a synthesis of the culture.
It's all right.
But,
it's an open discussion. Say
okay.
You feel.
But I just to lay the context, when we were there for like 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
3 weeks, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, 2.5.
2 weeks, and so by day we were in these really intense lectures that were all about the genocide that happened in the 90s, and we were learning about the justice system and how fucked the situation.
International law also.
Yeah, how fucked up the situation was, and how it still is, and how there's like very little like hope for integration of the three ethnic groups, and it was really heavy shit,
Yeah.
Really interesting, really important to learn about, but pretty heavy. And then by night, everyone's all like, oh fuck, glad that's over. And everyone's goes and we bought rakia, which is like plum liquor, right?
Yeah.
Plum
Yeah.
shit.
Well,
Plum.
they make it out of a lot of fruits: pears, apples,
Oh,
blueberries.
just like fruit brandy, I guess.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's like cheaper than water and
the drink of my soul.
such high alcohol content, and you just get so fucked up. And so we all did. And I was going through a breakup, and then there was a gender war that broke out fueled by rakia and learning about genocide, and it was a mess, but a fun mess. And
Yeah.
we learned a lot. We learned a lot about Bosnia too.
We learned a lot about pastetas and goats.
Pasteta. Yeah, a lot of interesting times over there, but
Interesting.
but in terms of the culture, I thought it was quite interesting with the three ethnic groups, how there's these three very distinct ethnic religious groups. Like they all have their own language, but they also have their own religion, and they're also their own people, and they're all very divided.
It was three. It was three in particular. It was the Christians, the Muslims, and the Orthodox, I believe.
Right. I think the Croats
Croatians
are
Orthodox.
Orthodox Christian, and then the Bosniaks are Muslim,
Bosniaks are
and
Muslim.
then the Serbians are maybe the Serbians are Orthodox.
Yeah.
One of the two.
One of the two.
Yeah. So anyway, no one agrees over there,
Yeah.
and just like the education system that's in place right now isn't really working to provide, their educational goals are not to like integrate the three groups. They're like to further split them up, and like teach very different histories to each group in their own schools. So that's one of the reasons why like the future doesn't look that great, unfortunately. Just because, they're all learning different histories, they're all learning different perspectives, and there's not a lot of, unity or whatever. So
yeah, and it's actually interesting because we're seeing a lot of the same things here in America. We've got the left and the right, and the divide between the South and the North. And me and Fedor, we've been talking to a friend of ours who's from the South, and he was telling Fedor about how he thought that everyone in the United States is getting the same history lessons and we're all taught the same thing, when that's definitely not the case. And he was saying stuff like he doesn't think that the Civil War was fought over slavery, when in the North it's quite clear that that's what most people understand is true. So, we have a very similar divide here in our country.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and a similar divide that's not necessarily being helped by our education system.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's such a central thing, is just like understanding the basic history of what happened. I managed to leave high school with like hardly any understanding of the history of this country. It wasn't until, I still don't know a lot, to be honest. There's so much I don't know, but I have done like a little bit more reading, and it's just incredible what they don't tell you. Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah.
So what about you, Fedor? What kind of cross-cultural experiences have you been through?
Yeah, hold on. I'm just trying to pour some chai right now.
All right.
Ooh, you got some chai tea going?
I got some Chinese stuff right here. Like pu'er, and I got some white tea as well. I was just like, yeah.
Racist.
Yeah, that's right.
So racist.
Cross-cultural experience. Well,
yeah.
No, go ahead, man.
I was gonna ask you a question. I don't want to derail you though. Do you want to say what you're gonna say?
No. Ask me anything, man.
Okay, I'm curious. Like on the topic of Bosnia, right? Bosnia, Croatia, Serbia. That's former Yugoslavia, which was formerly part of the Soviet Union, right? I'm wondering, like, what did you learn growing up in Russia, what did you learn about the USSR and sort of I'm curious as to what the narrative was that you were taught about Russian history, like in the late 20th century, like Cold War kind of shit.
Yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, I might not be the best representative right now
That's
because
okay.
I kind of forgot about that. But in terms of, and especially what's happening right now in the world, I get to see more like dividers, more alternative versions of history, and just people been pointing out like, but look at that, or look at that. And I can give you an example, which was the main topic of me and my friend Professor. Shout outs to Professor, like yesterday. He was pointing out that because of the statues being like broken down, like lynched the head of Christopher Columbus and stuff. And we've seen this already in Russia back in the day. Like it's just gonna be more relevant period of history, And to answer your question, damn, how do you even answer it? So I was cheating all the time, I didn't take my classes seriously, and the whole narrative I guess was because we're trying to compare it right now, right? To like if I'm like gonna say like, yeah, it was just normal, we fought the war against the Nazis, we won, and blah 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 blah, decommunization, the collapse of Soviet Union and all of that stuff, Putin, his regime. And I have to be able to compare at least to something, or just an alternative version, like, but what about that, Fedor? And it's not right exactly. So I haven't really done that much of a research in this point. So it was like a narrative to compare with America, where you guys have this like a main, I don't know, gap like between the South and the North in terms of like education and history in particular. Then in Russia, I would say we have all got this like, main information, because there is no such a divider, everybody would agree at least. Or some people, like there would be no like collision between like, no, that's not actually right, man. Some people who has done their research, they would go like, all right, man, yeah, that's not exactly right. Let's just have a look and like, let's exercise it, You're not correct at this point. But in terms of like ethnic minorities and like just, some group of people, yeah, we would have the same like understanding, from that same knowledge. But it's quite familiar. There would be no divider among us,
So okay, if there's basically like agreement within your culture, is that kind of what you're saying? Like most people are taught the same thing, therefore there's not that much debate about these issues.
Yeah, that's right.
So like what I guess if I were to ask like what is the major, or what is the dominant perspective amongst Russian people, like if I asked is it good or bad that the USSR broke off into?
Yeah, there is no main point about it, and that's like at least my understanding, how I see it. That was not that particular topic, or like, was Stalin good or bad? Was he a hero or like a vigilante? There was no such a discussion. We were given that Stalin did that, and that, and that, and that. So there is gonna be a divider. And people gonna represent their own sides, like, yeah, Stalin did that and that, or that was no, but he killed a lot of people as well. There's just gonna be a constant war. And like, I just have this idea. I'm just trying to compare it to America, where you guys like, because I was that, how I would say, conjecture. Like I was trying to connect Tarik and Sam, my buddy from the South. And Tarik didn't have like a microphone to speak out, so he was just basically typing. And I felt that, wow, there is such a big divider. Those guys, they would never be friends, would never be as close, because of this divider, as how Tarik described it as like this pride, of Sam's, and like just misunderstanding, or like rather understanding, and having this clear picture in his head from Tarik's side. I mean, to be honest, I haven't engaged in any, it's like, historical arguments, controversies back in home, because I was growing up here, I was just getting, I didn't have that much of exposure. So yeah, I don't want to be like a layman to try to, make up some stories right here, but there is certainly a war like of agreements going on VK, which is Russian social media, and how it's seen, like portrays like even like Black Lives Matters, like how we comment that section, and you try to, all right, yeah, we have the statues, and is it good or bad to make those guys, falling down, in the ground? So it's just I have to really not retake those history classes again, but rather pick my side, or just try to get more, like grasp some more understanding on that topic,
Yeah. What would you say? Is there a big divide in perspective, like on VK? It's VK? Is that what it's called? The Russian thing?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so on VK, from what you can tell, are most people supportive of the Black Lives Matter movement? Are most people against it, or is it pretty split?
Yeah, I think it's the same right now. We have like, all right, so I'm gonna put it a little bit simpler, because it's just gonna take a lot of time, and I know you don't have that much of time right now. So I would say that there is a certain propaganda, or like propagandas going on. Like people would pick up some facts and put it as a narrative, like, all right, yeah, look, Black lives still matter. They're gonna put the footage, or like his like if we're talking about Joyce Floyd, like that particular character, we would say like, oh, but he was a criminal and blah 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 blah. No, his life did not matter. Or like we would put like police brutality and like other factors, and gonna be, no, but look at this. And we have this divider, like those two like branches. And I don't have statistical like data about it, so I cannot really say it. But I guess from what I've seen so far is just more toward this, like, damn, actually, no, it's not as it doesn't really matter. I would still put a coin to that part of like, nah, Russians, first of all, they don't really care about that particular like murder, because we don't kill Black people in Russia, not by the police brutality at least. But and it's unfamiliar, we don't get to like this events happen in my country. So I guess
Right.
But I gotta speak up. But well, there is police brutality in Russia, that's for sure. That's not a question. It doesn't happen to
we're not question. I mean, you would feel absolutely safe, brother, as you have.
It's not exactly race-based in Russia. I would agree to that, but absolutely it's kind of a police state in Russia. But actually, to let everyone know, we are going to be talking to a Russian woman soon. So if you're very curious about Russia and just the politics there, stay tuned for that episode.
Yeah.
Is this the Russian woman, the rock star?
Yes, it is.
Yes! Yes!
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
so excited for that episode. Everyone has to listen to that episode.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
so
gonna be
excited for
great.
that.
Yeah.
And you gotta check out the song on YouTube. Can I plug it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm sure she'll love it.
It's called On a Nice Day, right?
Yeah, by Persephone's Bees.
Yeah, Persephone's Bees, On a Nice Day. It is a banger, and the video is really cool.
Yeah, we've been trying to get her the podcast from like, I don't know, constantly contacting her for a month now.
Yeah, you got her though? You got her scheduled?
Well, yeah, we think we got her this time.
Sounds good.
But yeah, so I mean that's it's interesting, you know, how you can see like some different issues or like the same issues in different countries, and there's just different ways of dealing with it. But you know, I think now with the internet and the fact that Russians are even seeing those kind of things happening in the US, you know, these ideas spread, right? The way to protest against these kind of things are now spreading. Like a lot of the protests here have been taking influence from the Hong Kong protests. A lot of protests around the world were taking those strategies. So, you know, it just goes to show. Oh, go ahead.
No, goes to show what?
Just goes to show that this is like the new way that culture is being transferred around the world, and the new way that the people of different countries are organizing themselves and showing solidarity with each other by sharing these strategies across the internet.
Right. I feel like it all kind of began in 2011 with the Arab Spring movement. That was sort of the first time that, you know, massive revolution and protests, you know, kind of were organized and happened through the internet. So, yeah, it is fascinating to think how the whole world more and more is pretty much also exists online. The world exists in physical space, but it also exists on this like invisible, crazy, you know, platform we have, and everyone's becoming more and more connected. And I think that's, yeah, it's hard to say like what the long-term impacts are going to be, but I guess we can already see from this past decade, really. If we look at the past decade, we can see like it's an unprecedented human event, basically, that we have this technology that can bind our ideas and bring us together, and we can immediately share something, and that's just, you know, completely unprecedented. And
yeah, that's right.
I think it's leading to some really important things, and it's leading to more, I think it's leading to overall more unity, as like different localities are seeing similar shared struggles amongst each other, and then are building solidarity around those struggles. So I think that's really positive. But then of course you have all these fuckers who are just such fuckers and just hate people just because they're bigoted, and but also because they're, you know, also something I've been thinking about lately, if I can bounce this idea off you guys, is that you know, it can be easy. Like I just kind of went to this place of like accusing or attacking individuals and saying, you know, these guys are like fucked up, you know, like fuck them, they're racist, they're bigoted, they're, you know, wanting to commit harm on others for, to me, what seemed like, you know, ridiculous, stupid, biased reasons. But then again, you have to look at what led, you know, some of the not all of the blame rests with them. It rests with the culture that they are, you know, from. People don't just, you know, I don't know. People don't just spout out of the womb and they're just suddenly like, you know, white supremacists. Like that's a process. That's a systematic economic political process of building someone's worldview in such a way that they hate certain groups and will commit or want to commit like harm on them. So, you know, I think like an important part of it is like we got to look at the culture that we're in and that we're raising children in and that we're educating people in. Like, goes back to the Bosnia discussion. Like, if kids are being raised in their own compartmentalized religious worldviews, and it's just reinforcing the divisions, then there's, very little hope for creating new perspectives and like new paths forward. Yeah. What do you guys think? Does it rest on the individual? Does it rest on the collective? What's going on here?
I think, well, Fedor, what do you think? I want to hear your opinion.
No, man. Please.
All right. Yeah, no, I think it's not an individual problem. It's a community problem. And I mean, in the United States, historically, our communities have been segregated, and it wasn't luck, it was by design. And that's why people are constantly talking about this systemic racism, because from like as early, since the country was founded, basically, the elite people, or like the political elite and the wealthy people, have been creating a country that would basically sustain their wealth and power. And they did that. They used a lot of different strategies in order to do that. And we've seen, if a lot of people have read, I can't name any specific books because I'm not that kind of person, but there are lots of books out there that will explain about how they decided from an early time that they were going to split people by race. And, at some points in history, it wasn't even just about Black people. There were Italians, there were Irish people, there were Chinese people, Mexican people, who were all discriminated against as being non-white, and therefore they were justified as being justified. They justified discriminating against those groups, and then when it served them, they decided to let those groups into the dominant culture, and then had them discriminate against other groups. So it's just been like a discrimination passing of the torch, in America. So. Right. When you have that kind of environment for years, and then people who are now segregated into a community where no one's really going to oppose that view, then you basically cultivate these bigots or racist people who would never find a way out of that. Even if they might think it's wrong, they might have questions, no one around them would give them the way to get out of that, because they're benefiting from that system. So it's definitely a community thing, and that's why I think it's kind of blowing up now, because it's so hard to be segregated in an internet era. It's so hard to be isolated in your thought, although some people are isolated in like their Facebook groups and things like that. But that's a choice. That's a choice at this point, and I think that's why a lot of people are angry, and a lot of people say that people aren't taking advantage of the power of the internet, because you can always look for something else, even if you're, and at least that's what I do, right? I can't say that everyone has that ability, because some people don't even have the access to the internet. But if you do have that access, it's kind of like your responsibility to be like, all right, well, I think this, but what about the other people? What about the other side? What are they thinking? And that's what'll lead you to make a more balanced perspective on the world.
Yeah. I wanted to pick up one thing that you mentioned, Tarik, that you mentioned, like, I mean, I feel like we're kind of talking, I feel like the way the historical process of categorizing people and letting some in, it's like, okay, now the Irish are with us. Great. Okay, now the Jews. Great. Black people? No. These choices were made at various points in history. Essentially, who is white and who's not white. And it's whiteness that holds power, but that whiteness is just a concept. Obviously it's not like a real thing, because within whiteness, there's many, 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 many groups, there's Jews and Irish and Spanish people and Italians and, but once you kind of make it into the label of whiteness, then that comes with certain like protections and privilege. And I forgot where I was kind of going with this, but I guess what I wanted to say is that is through that process. Like, essentially, my point is everyone who is white in America has that toxic bias from whiteness. So it's like sometimes it manifests itself very violently. There were some hate crimes actually this past week in the town I'm in. Some white supremacists broke into an Indian restaurant that's been a part of the community for 30 years, and they caused $100,000 worth of damage. And they spray painted all over the walls like really racist, bigoted things, and wrote "white power" and wrote "Trump 2020 bitch" and all these things. And so that's a very like in your face, overt racism. But I think that there's also, it's also there's implicit racial bias that I have too. Even I'm like, like somewhat educated and like from like a progressive community and blah, 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 all that. But like, despite that, that doesn't in any way exclude me from the system of racism. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that just goes for all like white progressives who are like, I love diversity. You know what I mean? Like, we still benefit and privilege from structural racism, whether we like it or not. So, anyway, sorry to rant, but I guess that's just where I'm at in my processing with all this, is how to like show up in my white body with this privilege I have, and to how to best grapple with it in a productive way and be there for communities of color, but also like respect their process and like not in any way like be white saviory or something like that. But I don't know, Tarik, what are your thoughts on like whiteness right now? Like the sort of the white response to Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, well, it's pretty complex. It's very nuanced, right?
Yeah.
Because my personal view is, on one hand, I know, yes, white people have a lot of privileges and have a lot of inherent benefits of just being white. But on the other hand, I also know that it doesn't necessarily mean that their life is easier in every aspect, right? Because we a lot of us face some of the same challenges, and those challenges are not always based on race. Sometimes they're just based on socioeconomic status. And that's like where I see the real problem is, when we have the wealthy people of the country continuing to get wealthier and the poorer people having a harder time, then what ends up happening is, if you're poor and white, you might get an opportunity in a town that's like mostly white, and then the Black people see that and they're like, oh, but you got that because you're white. But it doesn't mean that necessarily that you're a racist person for getting that opportunity. It's really the system that's to blame. However, at the same time, people who do get those opportunities, who are white, need to put their voice out there. They need to let people know that, from whatever they can get, they're also with all people, right? And specifically Black people. They're with them in the fight to have an opportunity that would help all of us who are in this like lower economic status raise up. But right now, the issue is that Black people are being killed constantly with no kind of justice to help them. So, I mean, the best way I see it is, you just need to pay attention. You can't be apathetic anymore. You got to really stand for something, right? Even if you're struggling, if you go to like a Black Lives Matter parade and you're standing shoulder to shoulder with Black people, you're doing yourself a service as well. Because as those issues are raised by the Black community and are being forced by the numbers of the combined community of white and Black people, the issues will no longer be able to be ignored by the wealthy and the powerful elite. That's the whole reason why they want to split us by race, because they know that if we're split in that way, our movement is less powerful. So to me, that's where the real allyship is. It's just acknowledging, like what you're doing is basically acknowledging your privilege and understanding why you may have some of the opportunities that you have as compared to a lot of other people. But the second thing is using your voice in whatever way that you can, in whatever kind of industry you might be in, or, you know, whether it's donating, or there's a lot of ways to give. But basically also recognizing why the movement's happening, aiding it in whatever way you can, and seeing to it that the main problem, which is the inequality, is eventually addressed. So, and yeah, I mean, my main thing is like, just don't paint yourself as a villain if you're working on it. The only real people that I blame as people who are not doing a service to the movement are people who are willfully ignorant, who don't want to think about it, who don't want to like check out the history, check out what's been truth from what's been lies, and who want to just say like, who want to like diminish things. Like, I mean, the all lives matter thing also gets kind of weird, because both messages are right? All lives do matter. They do. And Black lives matter. And they're not irrespective of each other. I mean, at the same time, yeah, Black lives matter right now because we've been oppressed for so long and our voice wasn't being heard. So it wasn't like all lives were constantly at threat. It was mainly the Black lives. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't care about all lives, right? Because there's a lot of people suffering right now, especially with this pandemic. A lot of people are suffering. So in that way, yes, all lives matter. But basically the idea to help the least fortunate group as soon as possible will eventually lead to all people being helped. So that's why people say, don't say all lives matter right now. This is not the time.
We're not there yet.
Right, exactly.
We're far from there. I don't know if we'll, it's so.
We will. I don't know. I'm an optimistic guy, I guess. I mean, I'm pessimistic about other things, but when it comes to unity and people just coming together, I'm very optimistic. I think a lot of the things that have divided us are very old ideas, and they're being challenged so rapidly now with the internet. It's just so hard to be that kind of person without being exposed to things now, or just a lot of people getting on your case. I mean, I'm not a big fan of cancel culture, but some people do need to be canceled. That's also a truth, right? There's constant yin and yang, but we just need to be responsible and really pay attention to nuance and context when we are mad about something somebody did or said online or in person.
Yeah, it is all about the nuance and the context. It's about looking past the two loud voices and trying to hear the nuance in the debate, and like hear people out and call people out and call people in. And I mean, I'm not saying, I don't want you to get the wrong idea that don't think that there's ever going to be like that. There's no hope. I do think that we are progressing forward in a positive way that's moving towards more equity. But I don't know. I'm also somewhat aware of these historic pendulums that happen. Like, I was listening to, I think it was like a New York Times podcast or something, and they had a historian on, and she was talking about sort of these moments in history where there was a lot of hope and a lot of joy around, the movement for Black empowerment and Black sort of autonomy in this country. There was it 1860s is when slavery was abolished?
Yes.
Right? 1860s?
Yeah, around there.
So like that was like one huge moment, and there was a lot of celebration, like Juneteenth. There was a lot of joy and celebration around that. But then things kind of like slid backwards, like, then, forms like it slid into sort of Jim Crow, there was like the Harlem Renaissance in the 20s, was it?
Yeah.
Where it was again this like celebration of like Black culture. But then after that, like into the 30s, 40s, there was like Jim Crow era. and then we moved into like mass incarceration era, and then there was the 60s and there was the civil rights movement, and like again there was this surge and this momentum, and then it kind of like slipped again, you know what I mean? And now we're back. I sort of feel like we're back, and that's what the historian was saying, is like we're back at a moment of mass consciousness around the issue. You know, some things have changed. There's the Civil Rights Act, and you know, there's more and more awareness about the issues, but you know, she was also expressing some concern that, you know, we could very easily slip back the way that history has done again and again. But you raise a good point, Tarik, that like the internet changes everything. Seriously, changes absolutely everything. So who's to know?
That's right. And the most fascinating thing about the internet is that you can share an idea of slow food moment, right? And that's just crazy, right?
Oh, slow
So
food movement?
Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit, to all of us who's watching this podcast, what is it about? And yeah.
The slow food movement?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I interned with them when I was living in New York City. I was like a communications intern, and well, basically they're an international organization that is trying to promote they're sort of trying to promote like stepping back into time, where we sourced more of our food locally, and we took more time to cook, and food and cooking was more highly valued than it is now, in which, you know, fast food is really prevalent now, and that leads to health issues, and it's sort of a fucked up industry in terms of animal welfare and all these things. So their approach is that we can solve a lot of social, political, economic issues through the lens of food. And their whole thing is like, let's participate in activism around that issue, but like, let's do it with joy, because kind of cooking and food is like a joyful act, is sort of like a celebratory thing. So that's their whole kind of thing, is like, if we have a joyful, celebratory activism around food and politics, that will be more somehow, it'll be sustained more, because we're not like getting depressed about it and burning out. So that's basically what it's about. It started in Italy by a guy, Carlo Petrini, who was part of the Communist Party there. And he was sort of like anti-establishment, anti-industrialization. And yeah, he basically started that. It came out of the Communist Party.
Yeah, so just to also give some context, we were in Italy, and I think that's where you like heard about it, right?
Yeah, I first heard about it when we were over in Italy. I don't really know where I heard about it from, but me and two other students, we did like a documentary project where we interviewed some people who were a part of the slow food movement over there. We interviewed farmers, we interviewed chefs, we interviewed activists, various people, asking them about it, kind of getting their perspective on it.
Oh yeah, quick question, bro. Do you still have that documentary? Because it was actually really good. I saw it, and I remember how good it was.
I think it's on YouTube.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I think we called it, I can look it up. We called it To Fight with Pleasure.
I'm curious to see how many views you guys got.
To Fight with, I'm looking it up.
Because we still don't know how many views we're going to have. But...
Oh, there it is. We got 113 views.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
Check it out. Yeah, you can just search To Fight with Pleasure, and it's the first thing that comes up.
Yeah, we got to attach the link in the description.
Link will be in the description.
All right, link will be in the description. However, I do want to provide a little bit of my thinking that I think has evolved a little bit since I was a part of that. And since I then went back to New York City, I interned with them. And I think that they're an interesting organization that is, they're trying to reform they're trying to reform the system, but they're not really trying to revolutionize the system. They're not a radical group. They're not looking for radical systemic change. It's sort of more about like slow, subtle, alternative reform. So that would be my one critique, is that they're a little bit elitist in some ways. I think mostly in the US. I mean, I don't mean to badmouth Slow Food. Slow Food, I had a great experience working with you, but I do think that there is some elitism there that y'all are aware of that, you know, just needs to be taken into account. Because basically in the US, eating well and using local ingredients and cooking slowly and taking your time, it's all well and good, but that's very expensive.
Yeah.
And the United States there's a lot of inequality here, and there's a small amount of people who can afford to live the slow food life, but the vast majority don't have fucking time or money to do that.
That's right.
So it's limited because not everyone can do that. What I will say though is I got involved with slow food when I moved to Thailand, and I tapped into the slow food community over there. And in some ways, I think it's quite a different movement in that context because it's been really picked up by indigenous communities, and they're using it as a banner to unite and to sort of promote their own agriculture and their own products and their own like indigenous identity. So I think that's really cool. So in Thailand, I saw it like working in a really cool way. Maybe it's elitist in its own Thai way that I don't understand. That's possible. But from my perspective, it was like, this is cool. This is like supporting rural communities, and it's providing young people with pride for their rural village that produces coffee. And like, because they have this pride, they're going to come back to the village and continue farming coffee and keep this tradition going, as opposed to leaving for the city and, you know, never looking back or whatever. So
like, is it expensive to sustain that kind of lifestyle in Thailand, like to be in that movement?
No, and I think that's part of it. I think that's definitely part of it. Yeah. I think that in general, just in Thailand, everything, including food, is much, much cheaper. And people are already, like, the agricultural traditions are not far away. Like, Thailand only industrialized in the beginning in the 70s, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, 70s.
As opposed to the United States, which started industrializing in the late 19th century. So, like, they still have strong connections to the land and to their agricultural traditions, and they're very proud of that. And they definitely are having the issue that I think the whole world is having, of young people who are on the internet and who see other lifestyles and who are called to like have higher paying jobs in cities, that they're leaving the villages and perhaps not coming back to work the land. And I think that's what the slow food movement in Thailand, a lot of it is about getting young people involved with food and agriculture, and having it, you know, creating a network and a community where that's an appealing future for them. Because the food has to come from somewhere, you know?
Yeah. You know, just a random thought I just had. I was just like, you know what would make young people want to be farmers? Marijuana. Just like, like literally, like I would love to work on a farm if I could just smoke weed all day. Like,
yeah,
no question. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to call anyone out, but a lot of the Thai farmers I know are growing a lot of pot. So you're onto the right track. Tarik, I worked on a pot farm in December for about a month. And so if you're interested, I have connections, but we can talk about that.
Look at that.
We can talk
Fedor,
about that.
This is how America works, Fedor.
Yeah, I'm looking.
We can network post.
Right. After hours, you know.
After hours. But I do have a sweet little ganja world I could hook you up with.
Thank you, man. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we're starting to run a little short on time. There's a couple more things I wanted to talk about, but
Forest, man. Don't forget about the forest.
oh yeah. That story is absolutely coming out. But for sure, I want to ask you because it was one thing I noticed and like really stuck out to me in Italy and kind of left a mark is food, the idea of food culture in general, right? Like as you mentioned, like America has industrialized their food industry and it's been like that for quite a long time. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we're one of the most obese countries in the world, if not the most. And it's showing how detrimental that is to our society, especially during this pandemic, where health is the main reason why people are susceptible to COVID. But like one thing that really stuck out to me when I was in Italy is the fact that they don't really have microwaves. That was like huge. I was like, what? How do you heat up your food if you don't have a microwave? And I just remember some Italians explaining to me like no, like microwaves are for like lazy people. Like you gotta cook your food, you know. It's a joy. It's like a lot of their culture is centered around food. So that's why I understand that the slow food movement came from Italy. But what did you think about it? I mean, in Vermont, I don't really know. I had this image in my head in Vermont of people also having a lot of farms and stuff. So could you maybe compare Italy and how did you feel about it?
Compare Italy with Vermont, or
Well, just like America in general and maybe like different places in America.
yeah. I mean, okay, I'll just say like I'll plug Vermont a little bit. Shout out to Vermont. Vermont has a pretty robust local food culture. I think it has for a long time, and people really value it. But I don't know that that's necessarily all over the U.S. In fact, yeah, not really. But yeah, I agree with you. In Italy, there was this sense of, they have a lot of pride about their food and about where all the ingredients come from and making sure that, it's all like, good shit. And you can really taste the difference. Like when you get good, fresh ingredients, like you really can't beat it. Like you can just cook the best fucking food. If the ingredients are fresh. And I think they have a real disdain for fast food and for sort of, not just fast food, because fast food is just one facet of this greater conversation on the way that our lifestyles in the industrialized world speed up and they get faster and faster and faster and faster. And our communication gets faster and our movement gets faster. We're traveling faster, where everything is rapidly getting faster, and I think that the slow food movement is not just about food, but it's also has these branches of like slow this, slow that, slow clothing, slow travel, slow whatever the fuck. You could point to any facet of life, and you could sort of look at it and be like, how fast is this? How fast are people moving? And I think in Italy, they've retained a sense or a value of things kind of moving slowly, slow conversations, slow walks, sort of taking time to enjoy. I also feel that in Thailand. In Thailand, it's very slow. It's very laid back. It's very chill. But then you get to America and you're like, oh shit, gotta go. There's this sense that, you're told from media, you're told from your university, you're told from your parents that you gotta get going.
Gotta get on it.
Gotta get on that shit. And I felt that in a very personal way during this quarantine time. I spent about past 3.5 months not really doing shit. Like, I mean, I had a good time. Like, I focused more on art and on reading and on cooking. And like, in a way, I slowed down. And I think we all did in a way, or have been. But then 3 months went by and I was like, I'm ready to speed the fuck up. My little American industrial spirit was like, I need to get some shit done now. Because I was getting like, honestly, like a little bit fucking gloomy, just like sitting around.
Me
You
too,
feel
man.
that?
I still feel it, man. I still
You
feel
feel
it.
the gloom?
And that's why I'm like, I'm just trying to do this podcast and like really build it up because I just need something to get like my energy out.
Well, I don't know if I have the best answer for you, but my answer was I got a bunch of jobs. And it might not be the best idea. I'm trying to negotiate how to do all these jobs in the safest way possible. But I found that just like getting busy again immediately lifted my spirits. But now reflecting on that, I'm like, wow, that's because I'm a little industrialized little Westerner robot who needs to constantly move and who can't handle a little bit of like, you know, slowness. So I just noticed that in myself that I'm not really just the way I was conditioned, the way we're all conditioned. We're not cut out for the slow life.
Yeah.
I think Italy and Thailand would be the best places for our guys' retirement, you know.
To chill out.
Yeah.
So
anyway. Yeah, that was great, but there's one specific story that, you know, Gabe is full of stories, and I'm sure we'll probably have you on again at some point. But there's one specific story I gotta get you to tell.
Oh boy.
It is the one. All right, so let's see if I can remind you. So I believe we were in Vienna. Yeah, I believe that's where we were in Austria, and we were all in this cafe. It was about like a weekend or so. It was me, you, Nick, Samudra, Zach, Eli, Kate. It was like a crew, you know.
You got a good memory.
Yeah. That girl from Pennsylvania was there too. Damn, I forgot her name. Anyway, but we were all in this cafe and we were kind of just like chatting it up. And you started telling this story about one time when you were camping and you were in like a forest and some really creepy stuff happened. You did some drugs on that trip. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I mean, I've done drugs in the woods more than I'd like to admit. And creepy stuff has happened on more than one occasion, but I have a feeling it had to do with some fires?
Yeah.
Okay,
and a certain kind of land that you were on. I'm really trying not to give away the story.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. It's all clear now. It's all clear. You want me to tell that story?
Yes, please, in as much detail as you can remember.
Okay, I'll do my best. We'll see if we can connect it to our broader conversation because I don't want this story to just exist as an island. Let's see if we can.
I think it has some relevance.
I think it has some relevance too. Maybe, you know, it might be a stretch, but I think we can figure it out. So basically, okay. So are you familiar, Fedor, with the Rainbow family?
No.
Okay. The Rainbow family is this loosely connected web of people, probably numbering in potentially the millions, all over the world. Rainbow family exists in Russia. Rainbow family probably exists in China. Rainbow family is everywhere. And Rainbow family is connected basically through these gatherings that happen at different intervals of the year. And so most countries, China, maybe not, Russia, I'm not sure, you know, they're not kind of, I don't know how many hippies you have in Russia, but
yeah, we have them.
China. You got hippies?
Not in China, I don't know about China, you know, but
yeah. I love his reaction. Yeah,
oh, I have a great. Listen, there are. I didn't think that there were hippies in China, But I found them when I lived there. I found them, but that's another story. But so anyway, rainbow families all over the world. Rainbow gatherings happen all the time. They're always going on. Some are huge with like hundreds of thousands of people, and some are tiny, just a couple hundred or maybe under 100. And they're sort of loosely organized. There's no clear leader of the rainbow family. It's just sort of a global collective. And I'd heard about them before. I'd kind of encountered them in Costa Rica while I was hitchhiking with Nick. We camped on the beach with them one night, and yeah, they offered us medicine, and it was great. But then, so anyway, but this is back in Vermont. I read in the local papers, probably 4 years ago, I read in the local paper, like, rainbow family set to descend on the Green Mountain National Forest in Vermont. And I was like, oh, sweet. Because I had heard that every year there is a national gathering. And it's always in a national forest, which is public land. So you can legally just camp out as long as you want. So sometimes it's in Utah, another year it'll be in New Mexico, another year it'll be in California, whatever. This year it happened to be in my state. So I was like, fuck yeah, we got to go to the rainbow gathering. So I got a couple of friends together. I can link some photos of our rainbow crew if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We got a crew together. We were really excited. We really didn't know what to expect. And we brought our camping stuff. I think there were about 8 or 9 of us. And my one friend, Ram, he brought a bunch of acid. And we were like, that seems like it makes sense to like do acid at a giant hippie gathering. Like, yeah, let's do it. So we drive to the forest and we get there and we start walking through the woods, following these paths. And like off in the woods, there's like, you know, just like families like buck naked, bathing in the stream and like having a fire. And we're like, all right, we found the rainbow gathering. And then it opens up, the trail opens up into this big field. And there's just people everywhere dancing and drumming. There's like a huge drum circle going on. And people are walking around, just like talking, hanging out. And there's all these like little settlements in the forest, like little soup kitchens where people are cooking and eating, sitting around the fire and making music. And it was like this like crazy utopia. It's like hippie utopia. And there were thousands of people there. And so we go and we find our little campsite in this little wooded area, kind of tucked away, because we were a little bit intimidated, right? We were a little bit like, we don't really know what's going on here. Everyone who approached us would be like, brother, welcome home, loving you. And you'd give us a big hug. And they'd just hug us so tight and be like, loving you, brother, loving you, welcome home, welcome home. They'd like hold your face, be like, loving you. And so we were like, it was like stepping into a new culture. Like talk about cross-cultural whatever. This was like stepping into another world. You know, most people were like naked and everyone was so loving. And we were just like, whoa, we got to get our bearings here. So we set up our campsite in the woods and we had to walk around, and we walked all around the rainbow gathering and took in the sights and met people, and everyone's just sharing their food with you and wants to give you a hug and shit. And you're like, this is cool. And so we determined like, okay, we feel good about the acid. We weren't sure before because we didn't know what the situation was going to be like, but we were like, vibe's good. Let's do the acid. So we all take some acid as the sun's going down. And for my one friend, it was her very first time taking acid. She'd never eaten acid before. And there was some debate. Oh, should she take half a tab? Should she take a full tab? And then in the end, we were like, she should take a full tab, you know? Like, if she's going to have the experience, like, fucking go, you know? And so she took a full tab. And we got into the field. And there's little kids, like, playing with lightsabers. And it's all super trippy. And then as the sun goes down, these bonfires shoot up all in all directions of the field, and the drum circles start. Like the drum circles were already going, but when the bonfires went up, that's when the drumming began, like for real. And we go to these bonfires, and there's probably like 200 people encircling this bonfire, just like dancing to the drumming. And that's when the acid starts to hit. And it felt, I'm not going to lie, it felt fucking awesome. Don't do drugs, everyone, but it felt like the shit. It felt like being around that fire, coming up on acid, I felt like I was being like welcomed back into my mother's womb. Like, welcome home. Like, this is where you belong. In like the warmth and the heat and like just the comfort and the freedom of it. It was profound. And then we kind of get all of us kind of get separated because we're just getting lost in the bonfire and we're dancing. And after a while, I'm kind of coming to my senses and I'm like, listen, we got to like drink some water. Like, I'm dehydrated. Like, I want to check in with my little family here. Like, let's just check in and drink some fucking water. So we all get together. I go find everyone. I'm like, hey, you, come together. And I'm like, listen, guys, like, we should drink water. Like, we're going to get dehydrated. Like, let's be safe here. And then we can come back to the fire. And my friend, who had never taken acid before, she's like, no. Like, I'm not fucking leaving this fire. Like, this fire is my life. I love this fire. I'm not going anywhere. And we're like, okay, but listen, like, no, we should really go. We got to drink water. And so we like kind of pull her away from the bonfire. And she's not happy about this. She's not happy at all. And we make it back to the campsite. And she's really pissed off. She's really high on the acid. And she's really not happy about what's going on, that we got pulled away from the fire. And we're like, check it out. We can build a fire at our campsite. How great is that? Like, we can just chill out, have some water, have our own fire, cool down a little bit, can go back later. And she's like, fuck no. And as my friend is making a fire and it starts to go up, she comes and she puts it out with her hand. And then we're just, oh, did we lose Tarik?
Yeah.
All right, we lost
camera
Tarik.
batteries, I guess.
Oh, okay. So anyway, is it still recording, you think?
Yeah, it is. You're good.
Okay, cool. So she puts out the fire with her hand and we're just in darkness. We're just like, what the fuck? Like, this is bad. Like, she's in a bad space if she's putting out a fire with her hand. And so we're like, okay, you know what? If it's going to make you happy, because she's really pissed at all of us, if it's going to make you happy, we'll go back to the big bonfire. Like, that's what you want? Fine. That's what we'll do. Your rules. Let's listen to you. So we make our way back, but she's like more angry now. And she starts going up to people, like nice people in the woods, just camping, like cooking their dinner. She goes up to them and is like, hey, you motherfucker, put out your fire, you asshole. And people are just like, whoa, just having a fire, man. You know, it's chill. And she's just like, no. And she starts reaching into people's campfires and pulling out burning logs with her bare hands. And we're just like, what the fuck? And we have to physically restrain her and keep her from hurting herself or hurting someone else. And we're, at each place, we're just like, I am so sorry about this. Like, she's really high on acid, and she's like, I'm not fucking high on acid. Like, this is wrong. Making fires is wrong. And we're like, yeah, making fires is wrong. Okay, whatever. So we make our way back to the bonfire, like disturbing all these people along the way, apologizing to them, being like, she's crazy. We make it to the big bonfire, hoping that that's what she wanted, but no. Now she's telling everyone, all 200 people around the big bonfire, that they should stop, that they should put the fire out. She's demanding they put the fire out. Like, all these happy people having the best time around this big bonfire. She's like, fuck you all. You're all fucking idiots. Like, you don't understand. Like, you're burning our stuff. And we're just like going around falling. So sorry. She's high. So sorry. She's like, fuck you. So that kind of becomes the whole night, is just following her around, making sure she doesn't hurt herself or hurt anybody else, and also apologizing to everybody for her behavior. It's exhausting. We do this for probably 4 hours into the night.
Yeah.
Terrible. Different people are like coming up with different solutions. One guy's like, listen, man, I know what will fix her. we got to make a big circle around her, and we just got to ohm right at her. You know, like, oh. So we do that. We make a big circle, and we all just start going, oh. And she's looking at us as we're ohming. She's looking at us. She's like, looking. And for a moment, I think it's going to work. And then she goes, fuck you guys, and just runs out of this circle. And we're like, all right, that didn't work. So all these hippies approach us with all of their hippie solutions for a bad acid trip, and none of them work. And she just keeps going on and on and on. Stop making fires. Fires are bad. You're destroying all of our stuff. She keeps saying that you're destroying all of our stuff. And we're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You are so fucked up right now. Like, this makes no sense. She's just completely irrational, like a different person. Finally, we're just like...
different person.
Like a different person. Finally, we're just like, oh, I don't want to say her name. We didn't hear that. You got to bleep that out.
All right.
We're just like, listen, Sarah. Listen, Sarah, let's just go back to the campsite where there's no fire, and let's just go to bed because this is just fucked up. And so finally we convince her to go back. And the weird thing is, like, at this point, we had no idea where we were. It was dark. We couldn't really tell where the campsite was. We were all high on acid too. But she is like, okay, we're going back to the campsite right now. And she walks directly back to the campsite. She knows exactly how to go there. No hesitations, in the dark without a flashlight. We're like, that's pretty fucking weird. Like, how'd she do that? We make it to the campsite when we're just sitting around, like, trying to calm her down. And eventually, you know, everyone gets to sleep. Or I guess some people, she didn't actually sleep, but I fell asleep, which was good. We wake up in the morning. The drumming starts all over again, first thing in the morning. People are, like, howling like wolves through the trees. We're like, okay, we're back. We're down from the acid. But we're like, is she back? Or is she still the other person? And as we're sort of questioning this and wondering how to talk about the whole situation, this person comes out of the forest. And this person appears to be a man. You know, that's what I would say as a man, but don't assume. And he's wearing, like, a sash across his chest and, like, a long flowy skirt. And he's barefoot. And he has long hair down to his butt. And he's like, hey, guys, how you doing? Like, I'm Crazy Mama. What's up? And we're like, hey, Crazy Mama, how you doing? And he's like, doing pretty good, guys. Just here to let you know, because I'm a Shaw woman of this region of the local native group. I'm a Shaw woman, and I just want to let you guys know that you know, set some ground rules, because this is native land. Like, this belongs to my people. And where you're actually camping right now is the burial ground of my ancestors. And you see all those trees? Each one of those trees is like a fallen warrior, one of my ancestors. And we're like, oh shit, okay, cool. Like, tell us how we should be respectful. And so Crazy Mama starts telling us basically the ground rules that the Abenaki want us to follow. And she's like, you know, first of all, don't shit in the woods. That's really disrespectful. Don't climb any trees. Don't break branches off the trees. Like, those are my ancestors, you know, you got to respect them. Most importantly, though, the most important thing that you got to respect is don't make any fires. I've seen a lot of fires out here at this here gathering. And I just want you to know, it's, like, highly disrespectful to our ancestors. And then she goes on to say, like, have you guys been, like, experiencing any weird things in the past couple hours? And we're like, yeah, really fucking weird. And we explain the whole night. And Crazy Mama's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like, you know, all these like, it sounds like your friend was possessed by one of our greatest warriors, Chief Yellow Wolf, whose body is buried right there under that tree that my friend had been sleeping on. It sounds like you were possessed by the spirit of Chief Yellow Wolf. Like, most people don't make it out of that experience alive. So consider yourself very lucky that you're still alive and you can tell the tale. And because you've experienced this this possession by Chief Yellow Wolf, I want to welcome you into our family. I want to welcome you into our community. And so he gets down and he starts like shaking my friend, and he gets a marker out and he starts drawing all of these symbols all over her face and all over her body. And she's just covered in markings, and he's shaking her and he's chanting and yelling and howling. And another guy jumps out of the bushes and he's like, I'm an 8th Abenaki, bro. And he starts shaking her too, and they're chanting together and performing the ceremony. And when the ceremony is over, he thanks us, and then he just kind of walks off into the forest. And then we're all just left there, sitting there at our campsite, like, what the fuck just happened? And basically we decided, that was probably time to head back home and process a very crazy experience. And so, a lot of us, we all have different theories about it. Some of us think that, yeah, she was possessed. Some of us just think it was the drugs. Maybe it was the spirit. It's hard to really say. But it was for sure a pretty crazy experience.
Yeah.
I believe it. I think she was possessed. This is why I wanted you to tell the story, because I just wanted to say I believe she was possessed.
Eric is a believer.
How else would she know about the fire thing, right? She had never been there before and never taken acid before, right? Those are the two hints to me that it was definitely that. And then she kept saying, "You're destroying all of our stuff." Who was she talking about? It has to be, and then that lady also knew that she was sleeping on the specific tree. Like, I don't know. I'm a very I believe in spirits and stuff, and especially the Native American people who have been on this land way longer than anyone else. I trust them,
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm with you. Yeah. I have a mixture on the thing, but yeah, I think that there's an element. I think there's an element of it that's definitely very spiritual and very spooky. And I mean, there's no other. Yeah, like you're saying, it's hard to ignore it. Hard to ignore the coincidences in that story. But yeah, that was a mind melter for sure.
What do you think, Fedor?
Yeah, I mean, damn, as you said this, just she was possessed. I had goosebumps on my skin. I was like, damn, that's right. Absolutely. I would believe it too. Because I've had kind of relative experience, but in terms of fortune telling. I've literally seen my friend being 20 years older from now, and he was unhappy. And after 4 or 5 months, he committed suicide. So I was I was high on ecstasy at that time, and we were eating them whole night. I popped 4 tablets, And as we were sitting in my kitchen, and Tarik knows a dacha, a house in Russia, I was just all right. I was just sitting. I was trying to make some tea. And the guys were like, yo, man, we want to drink some tea. And I was like, tea? Really? How ridiculous is that? And I was just laughing at them, making tea and shit. Got some Chinese tea on the table. And then when I sat down, we started talking. And then it was a second. I had this clear image, in front of me. A guy was sitting somewhere. The beard, his aged and shit. And it was just a couple of seconds, and then I got back. And as I see, to normality, I was just seeing him right at the kitchen, my place. And then I told him this exact sentence, yo, man, I know you're gonna go, but please leave your playlist, your music playlist with us. And he was like, all right. And I was like, damn. And that shit happened. And yeah.
Wow.
So I believe in that.
I'm sorry you
believe.
lost a friend.
Yeah.
Did he leave his playlist?
Yeah. Absolutely. Whoa. He opened this like access to that because not all people could get it. It's like basically like a few. So I got it, and I was like, I just happy listening to his music. He was the one who gave me this, I guess, spiritual contact, spiritual bond to listening to the music, you know. And I just got the taste of it. And that's why probably like right now, all of my songs that I have, they're somehow associated with people, you know. I remember clearly the image, the time that that song was given to me, you know. I remember what we were doing and like how it got, you know. I just need to listen to one song, like a couple of songs from a person to really understand what kind of guy I'm dealing with. You know? So yeah, I truly believe in that spirituality more than anything, and I want to experience it myself as well because that's just like my curiosity. You know, I'm just like it's a from one way it's a kind of dream. You know, like that iconic image in American culture that we all got. You know, like yeah, damn hippies, I like that. You know, like Fear and Loathing, my favorite movie, and I have a book here in Russian with me. So it's just like, but the historical context of that book was so powerful, you know, about all of the hippie movement and stuff. And to me, it feels I just want to be part of it. I just want to try to be, you know, that's a good thing about American like culture, as like opposed to like as I was like literally mute when you were talking about racism and stuff, because that's a very unattractive point, one of the most, and it's just that's the main divider, I guess, because it's just not my problem. I don't want to be associated as white, you know. As soon as I cross the border, I feel like, damn, now I'm white and I'm a thug. That's how people think about me. So it's just like, no, it's just not my thing, you know. I cannot get it, you know. It's just something like, all right, yeah, you can adjust yourself using chopsticks to get your rice, you know, but to adjust to that and leave that notion of being white or black or Hispanic or wherever and not being a human being in the first place, it just feels so strange and weird to me. That's just my small comment on that. But there are still some good moments that I like, you know, especially in the subcultures, which are like segregated, you know, and New York City is a good example probably. And that's why it's good for a Russian to explore that stuff, you know, but to actually live with that, you know, with that burden, well, I don't know. I guess I'm not that strong enough or just not my thing. So I would rather not.
Well, man, I'll say it this way, you know. First of all, you got to come here. You got to come here first, because you're like feeling the weight of these conversations because that's the way you're exposed to it, through people telling you the stories. But when you come here and you experience it with your body and your eyes and your ears, it might feel different for you. Maybe it won't feel as heavy as you might think it is.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not gonna name people who portrayed that. There, oh, Russian thug, welcome to America. Yeah, no, I got it. But it's truly amazing, you know, to just at least have this opportunity to join this kind of rainbow families, you know. And I'm sure that we have.
Welcome home, Fedor. Welcome home.
Yeah, that's right.
Loving you, man. Loving you.
Yeah, truly amazing. And that's the point. I gotta like just I gotta express it. I gotta share with people. I was never welcomed here in China like that way, you know. I had to do all of my procedures myself. And that's the first thing that like a non-Chinese, a foreign person has to face in China as he or she gets to this country. Like, oh, damn, your visa, apartment, all of that stuff, you got to find it yourself. There is no introduction. There is no that big hug that you're going to get, you know, and just being like in a completely different environment, culture, and etc. You would expect that somebody just gonna come up to you and be like, yo, man, I know it's tough. It's 5,000 years, but here's my introduction. You know, you can buy things at Walmart like this, and that. Professor was my friend complaining like, damn, man, nobody showed me what to buy, you know, because the tastes and preferences are different. And you just don't get these products normally. There is a small section of imported products in Walmart that you can get, you know, but it's just a tiny fraction. So yeah, to just be welcomed in, like, I guess if we're like, I'm not trying to compare, but I'm just pointing out that I would feel more comfortable, as Tarik also kind of introduced me to the Black culture in America and all of these bonds and relations. I just felt it like, damn, yeah, I would feel welcome there, you know. But yeah, nobody did it.
You'd be welcome. Come on over. Check it out.
That's right. Yeah,
Check
I
it
will. I will.
Yeah.
One day, to buy visa, a plane ticket.
Yeah.
And straight to Tarik's house. That's right.
Yeah. All right. So it's been like an hour and a half.
Yeah. All right, Gabe. We're gonna let you go. We know. Could you show us what you've drawn down there, though? I'm curious.
Sure.
Been scribbly scrabbly.
Shows. Okay.
Wow. There we go. Look at that.
Damn.
Can you see it? I can't really see what I'm showing you.
Yeah, we can see it. It looks great.
Thanks.
Wow. Amazing.
I'm entering it in a little local competition thing.
Nice.
It's been fun. Yep. All right, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you both. It's been really fun. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure, man. We'll talk and keep you posted. And so the only thing is, like, we're not really sure exactly when we're gonna release these yet. I probably shouldn't even be saying this, but
you can always edit it.
Yeah, I'll probably just edit this part out. But yeah, I'll let you know for sure.
Cool, sounds good. Let me know when Persephone's Bees is on.
Yeah. I'll shoot you for that one.
Okay. I'm gonna listen to that song right now after we leave this chat. So.
Maybe I'll put that as like the ending song.
Yeah, that could be the ending song. Fantastic. So good. All right, guys. Much love in your parts of the world. China, New Jersey. Fuck yeah. Tarik, if you want to come visit me in New Mexico, I'm here.
The invite has been made. Invite obliged. We'll see.
You do come, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, I have like my van you could drive out here, which is actually sick.
All right, man. I've been needing an adventure, so yeah. We'll
all right, we'll talk about that. All right, peace and love, guys.
See you later.
Welcome home.
Everyone.
Loving you.